Purchasing hours on an as-needed basis can be a mandatory requirement to work with certain clients, but they can also be a massive headache for you, especially if you have to constantly think about how many hours are left in your retainer, and of course dealing with the mistakes when you forget that retainer and accidentally give away free work. Just imagine, no more headaches of trying to figure out who needs a renewal and when. Everything is automated so that you can actually focus on your business instead of being stuck in the paperwork. So if you want to offload this from your brain and put it into an automated solution, you come to the right place. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Eric with SmartSuite Solutions. I help save people time by eliminating the tasks that they hate through automated and no-code solutions so they have more time to focus on what they love instead. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down how you can implement a hourly retainer tracking system that is not dependent on dates, but is actually based on how much time you have left in a retainer to help notify you when to renew invoices with your clients. But before we get started, I want to invite you to a free 30-minute consultation. I understand trying to figure out how to automate your business takes a lot more time than you already have. So if you book this free 30-minute call, we're going to be able to get some practical automated solutions set up for you quickly to start carving more time out in your day. So if you want to see how much time you can save in 30 minutes, head to solvecyclesolutions.com/30-minutes or scan the QR code in somewhere around my head here and book a time with me as early as the next day. Now that we have that housekeeping out of the way, I want to address specifically what I mean by hourly retainers, because I get a lot of people that I talk to that brush me off immediately and say, well, I have a monthly retainer with that's billed through my invoicing system. I don't need automation. And if you don't, sure, that's fine. I don't know what your business is like. I'm sure there are ways that we can make it easier for you, but if you're happy with that, that's great. The problem with hourly retainers is more so that they are hard to predict and keep track of, because depending on the clients you have, some may have retainers that go through very quickly, as much as having a retainer filled within a week, but some may last months. And as speaking from experience, this has been something that has driven me mad trying to keep track of before I learned how to automate my services. So how can you track this vital information so that you're not having to constantly be pulling it up and monitoring it, and instead have your system notified? Let's hop in my screen, and you may recognize this from a previous video I did about importing time from a third-party time tracking system. If you missed that, be sure to catch that video. I'll add a card up here, and you want to make sure that you watch that if you want to have this full process automated. If you are tracking information inside of SmartSuite already, you're in the right place. But let's take a look at what I have. So I have a series of different tasks that are showing the amount of build time to be 1.25 hours, 0.83, 0.67. You see a lot of different time here, and I can also create a sum here to show that this is about 12 hours of work. Now, if I were to bill different clients, I may have different types of retainers. Someone may have a 10-hour retainer versus someone having like a 40-hour retainer. I want to be able to consolidate all of these hours that I see for each of these clients here, and I want to know when I'm about 2 hours away from the retainer deadline, because that gives me enough time to reach out, have a new invoice generated to keep the wheels turning. Your minimum may be a little different. It really just depends on what works best for you. So I've set up a couple of different tables inside of the test zone here. I've created a new table for the client hourly retainer, which is where we're going to link the information from this time tracker and consolidate all this information but we also have to link some additional information from the example CRM, where you'll see that we can collect all the specific time for all the tasks completed, but we also have a retainer amount too that may be stored here. A lot of this information, I want to be clear that this is how I'm mapping information because this is what works best for me. One of the great things about SmartSuite is that you can map this data or place it wherever it works best for you. For me, having the retainer amount really just helps keep me in one place in my CRM, and I can share that information and pull it up in different places. So let's hop into this client hourly package tracker. You'll see I've already done a little bit of work here where I have linked the client's name with this specific, basically, retainer that I am working with. So I have Salt Cycle, Moe's Tavern, Strickland Propane, and Bob's Burgers. Many of them have different retainer levels like I talked about. Now, what I need to do is I need to make sure that when time is created inside of this time tracker, it is going to link to a specific record inside of the client hourly package. So if I were to do this, for example, just manually, I could scroll down and search for Moe's Tavern and Moe's Tavern, and I can link that. Now I have a roll-up field already created. A roll-up field, if you've missed this, is basically a mathematical function for being able to combine multiple linked records and calculate all the data in one particular field. This instance, I have the sum being collected for the field inside the time tracker of all completed hours. So it is adding these two records together to be 3.17 hours. So to make sure we can link this information in the tasks tracker to the client retainer tracker, we need to create an automation. One thing I do want to point out, though, is that I do have this linked record to projects, which is going to be vital for pulling up the client name here and being able to search this information. This is set up to a previous example. Like I said, I may organize this a different way so that the CRM and the time tracker are actively connected, but for now, this is just what I'm going to be building with. So inside of the test zone, I'm going to hit automations, and then I'm going to hit at the very bottom here, add automation. I'm going to change the name here because you want to make sure that you're changing the name so that it's not a series of new automation ones constantly, because that will get very unorganized very quickly. I'm going to hit syncing time tracker to client retainer. Now, to get this automation started, we need to select a trigger. You may think that when a record is created is the ideal option because if information is being put into this database, it automatically links. That's actually not going to work in this case because we have some conditional variables that we need to make sure that are mapped out. So in this case, I'm going to hit when record matches a condition, and I'm going to make it that when a client name is not empty, basically meaning when we know the client's name on a record, it will search for the specific information and map it. So now that we have this, let's go to the add action. I'm going to search for a specific record. I am going to search with the client hourly package tracker, and I just need a single record, so I'm going to select that. We can change the search name just for ease of finding retainer, and we're going to search for specific criteria. So in this case, I am looking for what the client name is, and we're just going to map the client names here. We want to make sure that these are equal, and so that all this information is being accurate, but we also want to look based on the status of the retainer. So instead of trying to accidentally find an old retainer and link this data to it, we actually want to make sure that the information is linking to the most recent client's retainer. So once we have that, we need to do one more thing, which is update the record. And in this case, we're going to go back and update the time tracker record and link it with our retainer package record. So here we're going to hit link to client hourly, and we're just going to say replace value. And then we're going to hit this back arrow because all this information on the field from trigger is from this exact same record that we're looking to update. So here I'm going to hit finding retainer, and all I need to do is actually just hit title. So this is going to link to the specific title here. So once that's all set up, we're going to turn this on, and I'm going to hit add automation. And so this should work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new record, and we're going to pop this open. All I need to do is add an end date. In this case, I'm going to hit the 13th. Let's put in 10 hours. I'm going to put example task. And let's say for projects, this is something that I'm going to link to Mo. I remember that debt collecting is something I did for Mo's Tavern in this instance, but I'm going to leave a link to client hourly package tracker unaffected. And you'll see at the moment the client name is not showing up because I haven't hit save. Once I save this, this automation should run and sync the time tracker data of 10 hours and add that to our consolidated record. Now take a look over at the client hourly package, and you'll see that the hours are completed have updated to this 3.17. So we have a system now, whenever time goes into this time tracker, it will link to this database. So once we have that set up, there's a few other things that you may have seen adjusting from when I've gone in between these different tables. The first is this percentage of retainer field that I've set up. SmartSuite has a sliding number scale that you can use. If I wanted to set this up for Strickland and Propane, I can just click and drag. You can also just enter in whatever you want as well. So this can be useful, but for our instance, I have devised formulas to help update and automate these particular trackers. So this is visually easy for me to see how much I've completed of my retainer. But then I also have on the back end showing how much time we have left in our retainer. So if I were working with Mo and saying that I had billed 13.17 hours, this calculates that I have 6.813 hours left in that retainer. So how did I do that? I used a formula. And basically, the formulas are ways for us to utilize complex computations for numbers, for text, and allows us to add some additional conditional logic. It's almost in a sense of being able to program or code your own specific formulas. So what I've done is there's a specific syntax of how you write these pieces of information, which I will be making a video on very soon, so stick around for that. But basically, I can link data from the specific client records that are in another table that I can then pull up the retainer amount, which in this case, the retainer appears to be 20 for Mo's Tavern, and then I can minus it or subtract it by the hours completed roll-up that we have already set up for consolidating all of those time tracking records. So this allows me to, at a more quick glance, be able to see how much I've done for Mo in this retainer, but then I can also see how much time I have left, so I can look at this without having to go through and constantly be looking at updates for how much time is completed in my tracker or keep that open in a separate window. This is all running in the background, so I don't have to really worry about it. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is regarding the percentage converter, because this is a whole baked out automation that, again, can be useful if you like looking and seeing that percentage completion. So this formula is a little more complex, basically the core of it, if you look at it here, is showing that we are dividing the hours completed from that roll-up field. We're dividing it by the client's retainer that we have pulled up as well. So once that's all divided, you should have a normal decimal percentage. But then we also have a times 100, which will actually turn it into a tangible number or a non-decimal point number. And then I also have what's called the round function, which allows me to round numbers to a specific decimal point. In this case, I have it set to 0. So I have the whole formula is set up here inside of the round formula. And then this 0 is actually showing the number of digits we're rounding to. So in this case, I am saying that the 0 means we are rounding to the nearest whole number. So if you have that, you'll see that I have 66% of the retainer completed. Now, this doesn't update into the percentage slider here. I have to create a separate automation, which is under this percentage bar adjuster. And basically, this is saying that this automation will trigger an update when the percentage of the retainer slider is not equal to what this new formula is. And once that is automated, it's going to then replace the latest value and update it with the one that has just been calculated. And this will help update the specific retainer so that, again, we don't have to modify any of this. We don't really have to think about it. And we can just look at it and know that's there and it is being accurately updated. Now, the final piece of this automation is that once you hit a specific retainer level that you want to initiate a renewal process, you can send an email to trigger automations, or you may need to send an email to get approval from your client. So what I've done to make this work is I've set up an automation as well for notifying the client of the retainer. Here, I can hit when a record matches a condition and saying that this percentage slider, if it is greater than 85, meaning that we are 85% through our retainer, I'm going to send an email. In this case, any email is going to be sent to me because I don't want to have to pull up a bunch of different emails. Normally, I would have this go to the client email directly. I would have that mapped, but I would just say, like I said, there's a test announcement. I would add something a bit more professional and then just, your retainer's running low. But this is how I normally do business, is when I hit that low retainer, I want to give the client's confirmation that we're good to move forward. So this is how I notify people, and I could CC myself in this email so that I can make sure that I'm getting a notification saying, hey, maybe you need to slow down on work until you get paid again. So I'm going to save this automation. And what I'm going to do then is let's add a little bit more time to Mo's task. So I'm going to update this to be, let's see if 14 works. I'm not always the best at math, so we'll see if this breaks the 85-point threshold. So we have 2 showing 86. So there we go. The slide has been updated. It just takes a few seconds for the system to process. I pulled up my email. Obviously, I ran this test a little while earlier, and you can see that that worked through there, but I just got a notification 0 minutes ago getting the same exact notification. So this is a way to, again, make sure that you're keeping track of your hourly retainers instead of having to constantly go back and update this. There are some other things you can do with this. You could set a notification for once you exceed the hours to email you, say, hey, stop working on so-and-so's project. This could also be very useful if you have people on your team that are all working together, so you're not overloading or accidentally doing more hours, to send a general message, say in Slack, and say, hey, this needs to stop. We're over capacity with this client. They need to pay us more. There's still a lot that we can discuss on this topic. As you can see, there's a lot that we dove into in this very short amount of time. First off, I do hope that you found this useful, and if you want to try and implement this or need some help getting this set up, don't forget about my free 30-minute consultation I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Additionally, if you found this useful, please consider subscribing, and if you think someone else may benefit this, please consider sharing this with them so that they can see the power of automation and how it can save you time so you can actually work smarter and not harder. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got a ton of value out of this and found some practical steps that you can implement in your business from this automated solution. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to post them in the comment section of this video. And in the meantime, this is where I stop talking.